The story opens with a man known as Clean, a waste collector who operates daily, hauling trash from urban neighborhoods dominated by gang activities. Upon completing his shifts, Clean often gathers discarded items that might still serve a purpose, fixes them up, and sells them at a second-hand store owned by a friend. Following his divorce, Clean resides alone in a workshop, grappling with the loss of his daughter, who passed away from an illness some time ago. Clean consistently reflects on his daughter, and these memories inflict emotional pain, as he holds himself responsible for her tragic fate. In an effort to find some solace, he reaches out to his neighbor, a young girl named Diana. She is an orphan living with her grandmother. Meanwhile, in a different setting, a man named Michael awaits his son Mikey outside the prison where he is being released today. However, Mikey is greeted by his friends instead, choosing to leave with them rather than his father. Although Michael appears frustrated by his son's decision, he decides to let it go. As the sun began to set, Clean was collecting litter in his usual route when he noticed Michael along with several associates engaging in somewhat questionable behavior outside of Michael's establishment. At that moment, it was evident that Michael and his crew were armed as well. Clean, however, opted not to get involved, choosing instead to focus on his work without interruption. It became apparent that, in addition to managing his restaurant, Michael was also involved in illicit activities, specifically smuggling drugs from China. These substances were cleverly concealed within the bodies of fish until they were ready to be distributed. Michael would then process these drugs, making them ready for sale on the market. That evening, Michael appeared to be in a foul mood, as he discovered that the package he received from his Chinese supplier did not meet the agreed-upon specifications, leaving him in a difficult situation. The following morning, Clean spotted Diana making her way to school on foot. Diana explained to Clean that the school bus service had been discontinued in their area, and since her grandmother's car had broken down, she was left with no choice but to walk. Moved by her situation, Clean offered to give her a ride to school. Later, he decided to gift Diana a bicycle that had belonged to his deceased daughter, placing it secretly in front of her house. However, Ethel, Diana's grandmother, soon noticed Clean's thoughtful gesture and stepped outside to see what was happening. The woman inquired as to the reason for Clean's intense concern regarding her granddaughter. Clean offered a succinct explanation, stating that his actions were driven by a desperate attempt to alleviate the persistent guilt that incessantly plagued his conscience. Ethel, in response, conveyed her belief in Clean's inherent kindness. In stark contrast, Michael, who was engaged in a narcotics trade negotiation, experienced a resurgence of irritation. This was precipitated by the Chinese vendors' repeated failure to adhere to the agreed-upon terms for package shipments. Overwhelmed by a surge of uncontrollable rage, Michael launched into a brutal assault upon the courier, inflicting such severe injuries that the man tragically succumbed to his wounds, his body becoming a macabre tableau of blood. Mikey, a silent witness to his father's horrific act of cruelty, was paralyzed by a profound sense of shock and dismay. Michael, a figure of considerable notoriety within the criminal underworld, commanded the respect of his fellow gangsters. His influence extended beyond the confines of the criminal sphere, permeating the local community. This power enabled him to commit acts of violence with impunity, even in broad daylight, on public thoroughfares. As nightfall descended, Clean initiated his nightly routine of collecting refuse from the trash receptacle situated within Michael's restaurant. He was abruptly startled by an overpowering stench, accompanied by the horrifying sight of fresh blood spattered across the vicinity. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Clean embarked upon an investigation to ascertain the source of this unsettling phenomenon. However, his inquiry was abruptly halted by the sudden appearance of Michael directly behind him. Michael, with a dismissive gesture, proffered a sum of money to Clean, instructing him to rectify the unsanitary conditions that had arisen earlier that afternoon. Clean, however, declines to get involved with Michael and returns to his task of collecting garbage. One day, while heading to work, Clean's car unexpectedly broke down in the middle of the street. Shortly thereafter, he witnessed a man fleeing from a group of thugs. The thugs managed to catch up with the man, cornering him in a narrow alley. They then attacked him collectively. As Clean attempted to assist the man, one of the thugs suddenly approached from behind and struck Clean on the head, causing him to lose consciousness. After some time, Clean regained consciousness and discovered he was in a hospital. A doctor informed him that the injury to his head was quite serious and that he was fortunate to have survived. The physician recommended that Clean continue with outpatient care and prescribed some medication. However, Clean declined the suggestion and chose to head straight home instead. On his way back, Clean encountered Diana, who was mingling with local delinquents. Concerned for her safety, Clean urged Diana to come home right away. In response, Diana argued that Clean had no authority over her, asserting that he was not her father. Following this confrontation, the young delinquents violently forced Clean away. Despite her initial refusal, Diana eventually agreed to Clean's request and left the group of delinquents. Meanwhile, Michael became embroiled in a fierce argument with his son during dinner. Michael was infuriated that Mikey seemed more focused on enjoying his time with friends rather than assisting him in managing a drug operation. The conflict escalated to the point where Mikey threatened his father with a knife if the insults towards his friends persisted. This led Mikey to make the decision to run away that night. In another part of town, Clean discovered Deonda's bicycle parked outside an empty house that had been utilized as a base for the local delinquents. When Clean entered the scene, he found Deonda being forcefully given drugs and alcohol, while also enduring harassment from a group of young delinquents. These troublemakers were even recording their cruel behaviors, with the aim of sharing the footage with their friends. Without a moment's hesitation, Clean swung an iron pipe and attacked the delinquents without mercy. Once he had subdued all of them, he suddenly realized that Mikey, the son of Michael, was among them, having sustained severe injuries from the beating. Clean swiftly helped Deonda escape the area before they could be caught by the police or Mikey's father. After several days of treatment at the hospital, Mikey was finally discharged and returned home. The physician who treated him informed Michael that while Mikey's body would eventually heal, his face would be permanently deformed due to the extensive damage, necessitating plastic surgery. Furthermore, Mikey's ability to speak normally had been compromised as well, since his vocal cords were harmed. The doctor strongly recommended that Michael arrange for surgery without delay, as postponing could lead to further complications with Mikey's other organs. Yet, Michael seemed unwilling to seek treatment for his son, opting instead to accept Mikey's condition as a form of punishment for consistently disregarding his parents' guidance. Shortly thereafter, a police officer named Frank approached Michael to inform him about the video evidence discovered at the location of his son's assault. The footage unmistakably showed that Clean was responsible for the attack. Recognizing Clean's close ties to Deonda and her grandmother, Michael ordered Frank to eliminate both of them and to capture Clean alive, demonstrating his influence over the local police for his personal gain. In the meantime, Clean, aware that Michael would seek vengeance for his son, hurried to take Deonda and her grandmother out of the city, aiming to get as far away as possible. However, while en route, Clean had to stop briefly when a police car activated its sirens and instructed him to pull over. He considered surrendering to the authorities to protect Deonda and her grandmother from Michael's associates. Yet, Clean soon realized that Michael had colluded with the police, prompting him to accelerate and flee the scene instead. After successfully escaping the police, Clean made a stop at a nearby restaurant. As Deonda and her grandmother made their way to the restroom, Clean took advantage of the situation by breaking into one of the parked cars, intending to drive away and erase any trace that the police or Michael's associates could follow. However, at that very moment, Michael's henchmen spotted Clean's car and immediately made their way to the location. Aware of the presence of these dangerous men at the entrance, Deonda and Ethel frantically sought a way to escape and find a place to hide. Noticing the arrival of Michael's men, Clean stealthily entered through a rear door. He managed to eliminate several of Michael's henchmen before discovering Deonda and her grandmother concealed within the warehouse. Since the two women had witnessed Clean's brutal attack on Michael's men, he felt compelled to disclose to them that he was, in fact, a former elite assassin. After the tragic death of his daughter, Clean had opted to leave that violent life behind and had secluded himself in the city to find peace. To blend in and avoid attracting attention because of his lethal past, he took on a job as a garbage collector. After ensuring the safety of Deonda and her grandmother, Clean returned to his home to gather essential equipment and the entirety of his savings. Following this, he visited a friend's shop where he purchased necessary weapons for the impending confrontation with Michael and his crew. At Michael's residence, Frank informs him that Clean is far from an ordinary individual. He is, in fact, a former assassin known as the Angel of Death, a moniker earned due to his ruthless methods. Shortly thereafter, Michael receives a phone call from Clean, indicating that he will be arriving soon. Realizing the threat posed by this harbinger of death, Michael quickly assembles his team and readies an arsenal of weapons in anticipation of Clean's arrival. Meanwhile, Clean is busy gearing up for his attack, equipped with various modified weapons and necessary gear. Once he feels prepared, Clean speeds toward Michael's home driving a garbage truck. Without any warning, he crashes the truck directly into the grand house. As a result, the power goes out instantly, allowing Clean to navigate the darkness with ease and eliminate all of Michael's men with minimal effort. Just when Clean begins searching for Michael, he is startled by Michael emerging from inside a cupboard. They engage in a fierce struggle, but Clean swiftly overpowers Michael. As Clean readies to deliver the final blow, Mikey suddenly appears, aiming a gun at Clean. This unexpected turn brings joy to Michael, as he believes Mikey intends to eliminate Clean. However, in a shocking twist, Mikey instead shoots his father, resulting in Michael's death. With his gun now empty and unable to fire another round at Clean, Mikey finds himself powerless. Clean, having survived the encounter, is left standing. The film concludes with a scene of Diana cycling through the streets of the city, now liberated from the control of delinquents and the mafia. She pauses briefly, smiling as she notices the garbage truck driven by Clean drawing closer to her. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks and see you again soon. Take care.